Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/60, conflicts of interest. I've got some councillors and staff members with conflicts of interest. Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary less than significant interest in item number CCL 23/87, Macquarie River Master Plan North and South Precincts Community Consultation, as I own a rental property in North Dubbo that is in the vicinity of but doesn't adjoin Riverbank Ovals and won't be affected by any changes or developments that may or may not occur as a result of this master plan, and I will remain in the room for that item.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Ms Bassingthwaighte.
Thank you. I'd like to declare an interest in a confidential item CCL 23/89, non-pecuniary significant. A close friend owns the company that is related to the matter, so I will leave the room and be out of sight.
Thank you, Ms Bassingthwaighte. And Ms Kumar.
I'd like to declare an interest in agenda item CCL 23/80. This is due to my daughter is a student of Macquarie Conservatorium. However, my interest is non-pecuniary and less than significant. I will stay in the room during that discussion.
Thank you, Ms Kumar. Are there any other conflicts of interest from any other councillors or our staff? There being none, I'll move on to CCL 23/61, Public Forum. I've got 4 people registered for Public Forum, so I'll go to those in a moment in order that they put their application in. So we'll go through each of those. The standard procedure is that you've got 5 minutes to speak in Public Forum. At 4 minutes 30, I'll ring a bell, or I ding a bell to know you're at 4 minutes 30, and then at 5 minutes, I'll ask you to cease speaking. It's not designed for an interaction between someone speaking and our councillors. It really is just for someone to present their argument about things related to council. So when you come forward, please just state your name, and if it's related to a specific item on the agenda, state that, and then you've got the 5 minutes to speak on that. At the end of the public forum, we've got 30 minutes allocated. So at the end of the public forum, we'll have time to take anyone else as well, apart from the 4 people that are currently registered. So the first person I got registered is Mr. Nicholas Broadbent. Mr. Broadbent, if you'd like to come forward. And again, as I said, state your name, and you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I'm addressing you in relation to item CCL 23/80 in the council's meeting papers, the Macquarie Conservatorium of Music update. I am the chairperson of the Macquarie Conservatorium. That particular document commences at page 114 of today's meeting papers. The Macquarie Conservatorium is the only not-for-profit conservatorium in Dubbo, providing a range of high-quality music education and performance programs for people of all ages in our regional community, from preschoolers through to adults. We provide services to Dubbo, Wellington, Narromine and Gilgandra through regular weekly visits to schools through our team of expert music teachers. We organise concerts and cultural events. In short, our conservatorium is a hub for music in the region. This is the 3rd time I have addressed Public Forum at Council. During that time, and indeed since 2019, the Conservatorium has been actively seeking the support of the Council and other stakeholders to ensure the continued existence of a conservatorium in our region to maintain this important cultural offering, and indeed placing Dubbo in line with comparable inland centres as one of only 17 towns with a regional conservatorium. Councillors, we have had no success so far in finding a new home. Our lease for our current premises on the corner of Darling and Balch Street will not be renewed by the Department of Education, and we have been asked to vacate. The lease was to end on the 31st of December 2022, but has been given an emergency 6-month extension to 30 June 2023, with an option to continue on a monthly renewal until December 2023, but also with the possibility that we could be advised to vacate at 30 days' notice. Now, it is a requirement of our funding agreement with the New South Wales Government that we have premises from which to operate. Importantly, our funding is for program delivery and does not provide us with the means to compete for and occupy commercial premises. We were very grateful when last year, and indeed over the last couple of years, council staff put forward for discussions and possible premises solutions for the con. These included the Carpet Court building, the bowling club and the Community Arts Centre building at the Western Plains Cultural Centre. After walkthroughs and consideration, including the provision of professional reports which we commissioned. The Carpet Court building and the Cultural Community Arts Centre, were both identified by the CON as feasible solutions. We've expressed keen interest in the suggestion that was previously made of occupation at the Community Arts Centre. Now, we understand that councillors have expressed concerns about how the CON's occupation would affect existing users, and as such, we have proposed a modified usage plan for the conservatorium that would not displace existing and occasional users of the Black Box Theatre, the drama room, the music room, the art wet room, and the pottery and photography rooms. The University of the Third Age and the Stedford Society would also continue unchanged as sole users of their existing spaces. To the extent it can be inferred from the document at CCL 23/80 that there is some lack of flexibility on the part of the CON in reaching a solution, I can assure all councillors that this is not the case. In short, we, the Conservatorium, are prepared to be as flexible as is practical to reach a short-term accommodation solution for the Conservatorium and to guarantee its survival. If this involves spreading our activities across 2 venues, for instance, at the community centre as well as somewhere else, the Conservatorium will take all possible steps to accommodate that. In the short term, we also intend to collaborate with other community groups and venues to house larger events. We acknowledge and appreciate the support in planning for a long-term bespoke solution for the CON, perhaps in a revised cultural precinct. But councillors, without a short-term solution, there will be no conservatorium for Dubbo to house. We have tried and we will continue to try every possible alternative. We do not ask to become the responsibility of council. We can take care of ourselves operationally. We can seek funding. What we ask for, and indeed all that we ask for, is to be afforded the space so that we can do that and continue to do that. The question for you, councillors, I'd suggest is whether you consider this important. Dubbo has a rich history of producing sporting talent, but it can and should produce talented musicians, singers, performers, conductors, and artistic ambassadors for our region. This is worthwhile. And if some of you are wondering what's in it for business in this town, consider this. Can a quality music education attract families of skilled workers, or at least make them think twice before thinking about relocating to somewhere else? Should you wish to discuss this matter, please contact me.
Thank you, Mr. Broadbent. That's your 5 minutes up. Thank you, Mr. Broadbent.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you. The next speaker I have registered for public forum is Mr. John Cohen. Mr. Cohen, if you'd like to come forward. And again, as you saw with Mr. Broadbent, just state your name and the item that you wish to speak about, and then you've got 5 minutes.
I really don't know what I'm here for, but I'm against the council in the future. Though I was told about 6 months ago that they had no plans to build a road alongside Bungalgumby Road and cover the country out there. Now I'm told if you're going to build a road, I own a property out there, and I'm told you're going to build a road through my property. Well, I'm very much against this, and I can't see how the council can achieve building roads on freehold country, and that's what it is. It's just to say you can put houses out there. So I bought this land on the idea that I could live there in peace, and I don't live there at all now. My daughter lives on it because I have illness and some other reasons. But I can't see how the council can suddenly come along and say, look, we're going to build a road through your property. So I'm against it, and I hope other people are too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. The next item I have, or the next speaker, sorry, is Ms. Margaret McDonald, who, again, you know the process. Ms. McDonald, come forward, state your name, the item you're speaking about, and you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
This is the public forum. My name's Margaret McDonald, and I'm president of Dubbo Regional Council, Dubbo Environment Group, and I'm speaking on the members' behalf. I'll be addressing the item 77 and 87, the West Urban Draft Plan and the Rivers Precinct Master Plan. First of all, I acknowledge all the time and effort that the staff have taken to complete this consultation process for both of these regions and to summarise and report upon the submission. There was a lot of work there. I am a bit upset that it was so rushed, so that the community doesn't have a lot of time to look at the report. And I was also rather upset that it wasn't able to be found until the agenda of tonight's meeting was listed. And I think that the community would have appreciated a longer time to have a look at this than to maybe have further input into what we. So because of that, we still feel like the sheep in my father's yard that I talked about once here before, where the fat lambs were drafted to the market. We still have all the elements in the final report, which were Dubbo Regional Council's own priorities from the start. In the Regan Park report, it is stated that the wetland will be professionally designed, allowing for wildlife. There will be no wildlife where there are sealed roads with carloads of tourists and hoons out for a drive. Dubbo Regional Council has used a disability inclusion action plan of their own to justify the addition of sealed roads at Regan Park. If this is such importance that a quiet refuge has to be sacrificed, why do we not have disability toilets at Wahroonga Park, Sandy Beach, Lions Park, West Dubbo, the John and Nita McGrath Field, Wise Park, Geary, and Centenary Park, Wongarbin? The world's most authoritative body on climate change, you would have all heard this week, the IPCC, this week issued its final warning for the 2020s. Aim higher, act faster, or risk losing it all. Dubbo Regional Council has a target to reach net zero emissions by 2040, and we're very pleased about that. This includes plans for an electric vehicle fleet and renewable energy for the city. We think that all possible opportunities to draw down emissions should be considered, however. Returning our public floodplain to regenerated vegetation is such an opportunity. It will also address the dismal state of the environment by fostering diversity, nurturing the river, and mitigating the consequences of future flood events. Dubbo Regional Council has failed to do the right thing by the river in the past. One example are the plane trees that were planted along Tracker Riley. But most of the residents knew that that was not the right thing. The Tamworth Street pedestrian bridge has footings that submerge into the riverbank, the river flow current, and in the last flood caused such a disturbance to channel it across to the other side of the bank, and that's what's caused erosion there. The riverbank erosion at the Duke of Wellington Bridge in Wellington was not addressed following a 2018 report which said that it was in need of remediation. Our First Nations people will tell you, if you look after the land will look after you. Past councils have done the wrong thing by the land, and it has and will cost we ratepayers to correct these errors. Future generations of Dubbo River residents.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. That's your 5 minutes up. Thank you.
So thank you. We would like the legacy to be
Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
the right thing. Thank you.
The next speaker registered is Mr. Peter Duggan. Mr. Duggan, if you'd like to come forward and you're aware of the process. Thank you.
All right. I'm Peter Duggan. I'm speaking today to address CCL 23/77 Draft Northwest Urban Release Precinct Plan, and CCL 23/87 Quarry River Master Plan. I'm largely supportive of the current iterations of these plans. For example, the high-density residential zone adjoining the river corridor has been removed from the precinct plan, and now the plan shows extensive areas of open space that also permeates the precinct. The plan at this stage is very light on, and I'd hope there are more detailed plans that would steer the future direction of this precinct. As I highlighted in my submission, all one has to do is look at great examples of past precedents to know how to create great places to live. Likewise, the Macquarie River Master Plan is steering in a good direction. There are extensive areas of revegetation which would be valued much by the environment, the Dubbo community and its visitors. The plan, though, it's a bit too busy with too many amenities and sealed services. I joke and suggest that I could have saved council $100,000 in preparing a master plan by just writing fuzzy box woodland over a site plan of the river corridor. And one overriding element that the Dubbo community do need to understand from council is just where sports fields are to be proposed. As you are well aware, there is a strong element in the community against them being built in the river corridor, which these plans do not discount. As we have often stated over the past year, there are extensive council-owned areas throughout Dubbo where they can be appropriately located, and I would add, be more suitable. Councillor Black's motion in September last year calling for a report from council to detail where sports fields could be located hasn't been addressed to my knowledge. There's a graph in the back of the master plan report indicating that the various sports clubs are at capacity for training facilities. However, does that mean they need 2, 4 or 8 fields? A formal needs analysis should be prepared by the sporting clubs that are requesting more fields before ratepayers have to spend thousands of dollars constructing and maintaining fields that may or may not be required. I've cast my eye wide of late and seen what other council areas have provided for their communities. Wagga Wagga, a city of 56,000 people, provides 13 rugby fields, 22 cricket grounds and 18 soccer fields, all located around the city and its surrounding suburbs. Not one is located along the Murrumbidgee River. Let's create great places for our communities, but not at the expense of others or the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duggan. We still have time left in time allocated to public forum. So if anyone else would like to speak in public forum, the time we've allocated, then you may come forward and come to the microphone, Ms. Gray. And again, state your name. If there's something on the agenda you're speaking about, just reference that item and you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, councillors. I'd like to pay my respects to traditional owners in the room and in the community. My name's Mel Gray. I'm the convener of a grassroots group called Healthy Rivers Dubbo. It was World Water Day this week. Water obviously is a life and death matter, and good water management is a life and death issue. Now, only a couple of years ago, Dubbo was almost out of water. We had the river cut off at Warren, people pulling fish out of drying up green pools of water. We had plans to rescue platypus out of the river should the river have been cut off at Burrendong. Unthinkable, and Dubbo therefore evacuated. We're in a really serious situation, and that's because the settings that the New South Wales government used to allocate water have been worked out so that only 2 years' supply of water is kept in Burrendong at any time. So Burrendong will empty every 2 years, and they just cross their fingers that they're going to get the same rain they did last century and that it will fill again and we won't have to be evacuated. So other communities don't stand for this. Places like Mudgee have got 8 years' supply in their dam. The Lachlan got burnt really badly in the millennial drought. They nearly ran out of water. and their settings are much more conservative. There's much more water kept in their dams down on the Lachlan. So it's, really important that the community understands that a town with $8 billion worth of economic activity a year, and our home and our community, our aged care homes are full, our schools got kids in them, everything that goes on in Dubbo is really hinged on Burrendong only having 2 years water supply in it at any given time. So Burrendong's a massive dam. There's 1,188 gigalitres of water in there, and out of that, Dubbo uses 8 a year. And yet there's only 2 years supply in Burrendong. So I just wanted to take this opportunity, and it's not on the agenda, Mayor, but I just thought I'd take this opportunity, seeing that it's World Water Day this week, just to keep reminding us that, if we want more water kept in Burrendong for the river itself and for the community, then that's something that we need to take up with whoever the new water minister will be in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Once again, we still have time left in public forum if anyone else would like to come forward and speak. Going once, going twice. Okay, no further speakers. Thank you for coming along and those people that have spoken there. Next item is CCL 23/62, confirmation of minutes. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/63, mayoral appointments and meetings. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Ivey. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I had a look through them, and again, you've been as busy as usual. But am I right in just looking and thinking that maybe your a lot of interviews and public appearances have been broadened out a bit? You've got ABC Tamworth interviewed you, Channel 9 Coffs Harbour, NBM Tamworth, 2SM, 2GB over the period. Is that a trend, or is there some particular events which really encouraged outside areas outside Dubbo to become interested in what was happening in our area?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Some of those have been in relation to one of my other roles, which is Regional Cities New South Wales Chair, which is a role that I hold as Mayor of Dubbo. There's 15 cities on Regional Cities New South Wales, and again, I happen to be Chair of that. So some of those comments are from some of the media outlets or media releases that we have from Regional Cities New South Wales, and then some of those various media organisations across the state are picking up on some of those things. So some of those commentaries are specific to regional cities, but obviously very relevant to Dubbo as well, because the issues that we have in Dubbo are very similar to the issues that the 15 cities have, and that's the reason we have that collective of 15 cities together to try and get a little bit more traction out of some of those things that are occurring there. So you're right, well picked up. Some of those have been a bit broader, and we've been specifically sending some information out in relation to the election coming up, obviously, to try and get a bit more traction across the state. Further, yes?
I just have a follow-up question. I also noticed on the 1st of March you met with Qantas. Is that confidential, or what was the basis of those discussions?
Really, that was there's a particular gentleman who's the rep for this area, and there's a new gentleman who's taken on a national role with Qantas, and so it was really just an update on where Qantas is at, how they're progressing, what is needed for our airport, what can help our residents, what other flights, what other potential outcomes can we get from that. It was really just one of those things that new staff member wants to get the lay of the land for various airports. This is an important hub for Qantas. Obviously, there's a lot of people that fly from here through to Sydney, then out to the rest of the world, out to the rest of the nation. So they were keen to hear what we can do for them and what they can do for us to help our flying public. So nothing specific out of it. It was really just one of those meetings that it's a touch-base meeting and progress that relationship. Yeah, thank you. So I can't make any announcements about direct flights to London from Dubbo or anything like that at this stage. If that's what you're hoping for, sorry. Any other questions or comments, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/64, report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee. So moved Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion, or sorry, Councillor Black, anything you need to exclude from that? Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Report of the Culture and Community Committee, CCL 23/65. Councillor Goff, thank you, so moved. Any seconder? Councillor Wells. Councillor Goff, nothing you need to pull out of that separate to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any discussion or debate on that committee meeting, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/66, report of the Corporate Services Committee. So moved Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. There may have been an item that needed to be pulled from this one. Councillor Mann?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the item CSC 23/5.
Thank you. So we'll put firstly the rest of the meeting save and accept that item that you mentioned. So councillors, any discussion or debate on the rest of the committee meeting? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. And now, Councillor Mann, can you move that one that you excluded, please?
The report of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held on the 9th of March 2023, save and accept item CSC 23/5 be adopted.
So we've just done that one. So if you just now move CSC 23/5, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I'll do that. 23/5.
Yes. So moved by Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Burns. And Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that particular item?
No, there was some feedback around the proposal to shift the council chambers, to relocate the council chambers and make better use of council space. So I thought best to get that open again for commentary, if there's any there.
Thank you. So councillors, discussion about that particular item in terms of basically vacating the space that we're sitting in right now and moving that downstairs so that the downstairs space is used for normal committee meetings on a regular basis, and then twice a month reconfigured to be used as a council chamber, which would then free up this space to be used for other potential office space or other potential uses in the building. Councillor Chowdhury, did you have a comment on that? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm not against of this moving this chamber to the downstairs, but I have a little concern. Like I had an opportunity to went few council in Sydney. I went to their chamber and it looks really professional. So I'm just a little bit asked to CEO like what sort of like outfit and we will be getting in downstairs when we moved in, because at this moment the current setup is looks professional, but then it is space plus we using only monthly twice. So I'm just a little bit concerned. Like I don't want to go downstairs and doesn't look professional, or like doesn't have a right outfit. And also like one other thing is it's not representing only double. A lot of people from outside of double, so maybe watch our meeting. So I have a question to the CEO. Like it would be similar sort of setup, or like a decorative would be similar sort of, or it would be different. Yeah.
Yep, certainly staff are very aware that I guess a temporary arrangement doesn't look temporary, and actually, to Mayor's point, I use a different pronunciation, the gravitas of a council meeting. I think that's very important as a sign of respect to the elected body and also the people, such as we've seen today, speaking in public forum. So we are very conscious to get it right. It's not unusual. A lot of councils are moving to a more multi-use space. So whilst there are some that will stick with their traditional and some of them are very old and they probably won't move, I think we can get the balance right, but certainly we'll be consulting with councils as we move through that design and implementation process.
Yep. Thank you, CEO. Councillor Chowdhury, anything further from that?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Any other questions or debate on that, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 23/67, report of the Floodplain Management Committee. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Burns.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No, thank you. Sorry, I thought you were standing up to talk. My apologies. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is a notice of motion of rescission on CCL 22/12 for the motion for National General Assembly. So, Councillor Chowdhury, you wish to move that notice of motion of rescission?
Yes,
And
Mr. Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that notice of motion of rescission?
Yes, I'd like to bring attention to everyone. This notice of motion been moved in 9th of February 2023, but the original notice of motion wording wasn't correct, so it's not the ALGA standard. So that's why we requested to rescission that notice of motion to bring a new one.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So it's really just tidying up that motion. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. And now, Councillor Chowdhury, you've got a new motion to replace that, CCL 23/69, notice of motion for National General Assembly. So you have to move that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second that, please. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Chowdhury?
The new it is same notice of motion, just wording been corrected. So it's like a more focus, putting pressure on federal government to take more initiative to bring skilled and non-skilled migrant to our regional area. As we all are aware of, we have a lot of vacancy within our region and a lot of development happening. So we need a lot of people. So this notice of motion, if it passed through ALGA conference, then it will be help them to facilitate with the federal government and attract more, take some initiative to bring more skilled and non-skilled migrant. Thank you.
And presumably, just to ask one thing further there, Councillor Chowdhury, this is really about bringing skilled and non-skilled migrants to regional areas in general, because it's obviously going to the National General Assembly, which obviously would include Dubbo, but not specifically for just Dubbo.
No, correct. Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other speakers or comments on that particular item, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item again, Councillor Chowdhury, CCL 23/70, Dubbo Region Christmas Campaign. Do you wish to move that, Councillor Chowdhury?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I brought this notice of motion because I think Dubbo Council has a lot to offer our local community. Because Christmas is really a big event for us. And last year, I received a few comments from that community and business that for the decoration, for the lighting up, and some other activity could council can do further. So that through that notice of motion, I requested to see you to identify potential options, so how we can engage our local businesses and attract more tourists, bring it to our region, and more fame, and more to offer to the families, they can enjoy and celebrate that Christmas period.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/71. Have someone move the recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is the Drinking Water Management System Annual Report, CCL 23/72. And I think someone's going to move a motion slightly different to what's in the report. Councillor Etheridge, you're doing that. Can you just read out that full motion, please, Councillor Etheridge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Council notes the report that an annual report be provided to Council on the drinking water management system performance by the April Ordinary Meeting of Council, that it be noted, as is required, excuse me, that the annual report shall be provided to the Public Health Western New South Wales Local Health District.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Ivey, then Mahon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, it seems to be a fairly obvious no-brainer to do that. Evidently, we do prepare the report as we should and submit it to the Department of Public Health and New South Wales Local Health District. Well, having done that, really it's incumbent upon us to also present it to council so that councillors can consider it and one, be informed, but secondly, act upon anything which they see may be requiring some attention with the submission of that report. So I commend the idea. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. And I suppose more important than that is that it not only goes to councillors, but also the public will see it as well. To your point, that the councillors will see it, but also the public will see that as it comes through. Councillor Mahon.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, a question. Obviously, the fluoridation of the water is mentioned in this report, and has been quite a hot topic around the region for a while now. Just like to understand how that project of fluoridation is progressing.
Thank you, Councillor Mahon. Through you, Mr. CEO, to Mr. Godfrey.
Yes, the update on the fluoride is that the tender has now been received by council. We've received several tenders back, and we're currently assessing the tenders on the fluoride system. We received that around 20 days ago, so our assessment is going quite well, and we're expecting an outcome very soon. The assessment's undertaken by Public Works Advisory, Council's Manager of Procurement, and also DPE. Council is currently waiting comments back actually from DPE.
Thank you, Mr. Godfrey. Councillor Mahon?
Just further through you, Mr. Mayor, just understanding a completion timeline of some sort of a mud map for when we might get that project done.
Thank you, CEO. To Ms. CEO.
We won't know until we actually put in front of council the choice to select tenderers. So they've got their timelines they have to submit as part of that process. So we're aiming, and we've certainly instructed agencies that we need feedback in time so we can have this report come to the standing committees in 2 weeks' time, and then we'll have that further information at that point.
Thank you.
And sorry to follow up, Ms. CEO, we certainly have made the commitment to the community that 30 June was the target date before 30 June to have fluoride back in the water. Do we know if that's still on track?
I'd suggest that's probably not going to be reached based on the time the tender's taking. Again, we get sign off not by ourselves and Public Works who are engaged. Also DPE Water as a regulator has to have their imprimatur across it as well. So we've certainly had some delays in that process.
Yeah, thank you. Anything further, Councillor Mahon?
Thank you.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a general comment that it's really a positive approach for council. In my time, in the last month or so, or probably last few months, there's been lots of questions to me around the Dubbo's drinking water, the turbidity, all of the different things that have been happening. So I just think it's a positive move, and the public will be able to see some detail in where we're going. Thank you.
And presumably, Councillor Wells, if this motion is passed by council, then the first report will come to the meeting next month.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm getting a blank stare from the CEO, but
through Mr. Mayor, you've got it now, so we're ahead of that game.
Right.
So that is future-proofing the resolution, so I don't just do it as a one-off of our staff choice, but councillors are holding the organisation to account that we'll put this report forward at every April from here on in.
Yep.
So therefore, we won't have fluoride not in our water without the councillors or the community knowing about it, as an example.
Yes. Councillor Chowdhury, I think you had your hand up there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I can see on the report free chlorine level. So there was a 16 times free chlorine level came below critical limit at Mumbai and 1 time in Giri. So I'm just asking through you, Mr. Mayor, how often do council check that chlorine level, like a free chlorine level?
I might actually.
Sorry, I was just saying where I was taking that.
Mr. Godfrey.
Yeah, thank you. To you, CEO, Mr. Godfrey.
I might actually direct that question to council's technical officer in relation to that.
Actually, do you want to come forward?
I just need you somewhere near a microphone.
Ms. Quinn.
So the treatment team actually checks the free chlorine levels every week out at Mumble. Geary's actually every day, same with Wellington and Dubbo. So it's every day, bar Mumble.
Thank you.
Nothing further on that, Ms. Quinn. That covers it. Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Chowdhury?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? There being none, Councillor Etheridge, you do have a right of reply if you wish to exercise that.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Have that before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/73, adoption of the Geary Flood Study and Flood Risk Management Plan. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't touch it. In relation to this flood study, Councillor Ivey and I have had a meeting with Geary residents, and there is a bit of concern about drainage issues. I'm just wondering if this management plan will, in long term, solve some of their problems, if not impact them.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Through you, Mr. CEO.
To Mr. Johnson, please.
Yes, to Mr. Johnson in the hot seat, the revolving hot seat.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to properly answer that question, I'll just generally explain that modelling methods for a change for different size catchments. So for a flood study of the likes of Geary, as you can imagine, the catchment is quite large for the creek lines that run through Geary. So the modelling methods used to capture the flood risk of those creeks is quite high level. And then the options that we look to mitigate the risk arising from the flooding from the major creek lines coming through Geary. So because it's high level in the modelling technique, it can generally look at local drainage issues, but it doesn't fully capture or analyse properly those local drainage issues because it is quite a high level model. So what we've done is we've certainly captured the community's feedback in terms of the local drainage issues for Geary, and then we need to take those areas of concern and do more detailed modelling analysis at a more refined approach, and then come up with options that might solve those issues.
Okay.
Hope that explains.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anything further, Councillor Goff, on that in particular?
No, thank you.
Okay, anything further, councillors, on that? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, 2023 Anzac Day ceremonies, Dubbo Local Government Area. Can I have someone move that report, please, that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks.
Any questions or debate, councillors? No. There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/75, the 2023 Dubbo Cycle Club season. Can I have someone move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, you wish to speak to that?
Mr. Mayor, only to endorse it and to really congratulate the club on organising and running what is a really very good, worthwhile community activity. They have a number of riders across a great range of ages, and if we can help through this traffic management plan, enable them to have successful, regular cycle events, so much the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/76, short-term work accommodation in the LGA. Someone move that recommendation, please. Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, you should speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think the report is very good. It does provide a roadmap as to what needs to be done to address what is absolutely a looming issue in our region. There's some figures in there which I think most people knew already, that within the next 2 or 3 years there will be a need for probably an extra 5,000 workers in our local government area, and they need to They need to sleep somewhere. They need to. Some of them will come from existing positions within our LGA, but really we've got a high level of employment already. Most of those workers will come in from outside, and there is an absolute pressing need for us to provide accommodation for them. Again, not just to enable the projects to take place, but inevitably, if we can provide good, worthwhile and safe and accommodation of a relevant standard, then some of those workers will choose to stay in our areas after the development is their development has been completed that they've been engaged to work on. My only comment with it is that it's a blueprint for what we've got to do going forward, but through Mr. Mayor, could I ask the CEO to perhaps provide some comments, or the staff to provide some comments on how we are going to see the implementation of this plan so that we do get some extra accommodation sooner rather than later, because we've got projects now in the Wellington area which are starting as we speak, and they will ramp up to have something like 500 people working there on any one day. What are we doing in the next 12 months to see that those accommodation needs can be met?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I'll go through your CEO to
Mr. Jennings, please.
To Mr. Jennings. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely short-term worker accommodation. It's definitely about having a solid range of options there. There's no one solution which is going to fit everything we need to do for the local government area. This is trying to look at making sure, as one of the key recommendations there with the change to the LEP, to the local environmental plan, around allowing short-term worker accommodation in more areas and more situations. So, that's a key policy change that we see is very important. Apart from that, staff continue to work very closely with Energy Co, which is the government body that's looking after the renewable energy zone development around Wellington. We also see a greater emphasis now from the State Government Department of Planning in assessing the renewable energy applications, where really short-term worker accommodation and employment issues were left basically to the last minute and a post-approval mechanism. So now there's a greater understanding of the importance of that as well. And then also the other part of the report is the investment attraction opportunities there for Dubbo and also for Wellington. We need to make sure that we get the stories out there about what we need and where the opportunities could be moving forward. And also staff have been working with some development opportunities as well in the local government area. That hopefully will see the light of day moving forward and help us improve the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Anything further, Councillor Ivey, from that? Okay. Anything else? Councillor Mann and Councillor Black.
Oh, yeah, just I guess a flow on. Hopefully the short-term worker issue is a big one, but the flow on, if we can generate some more beds, obviously is going to be the general population, who I believe is a very tight rental market. Hopefully this can alleviate some space into that market as well, so everybody will share the benefit of having the extra accommodation available.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a couple of other interesting points in this report which had to do with build-to-rent options, possibly by council on the Care Suite blocks. That might help to alleviate, there was talk about 3D printed houses, alleviate any rental shortage, crisis accommodation. But also one of the interesting points was investigate developer contributions being available for affordable and community housing providers. I think it's important that we don't forget some of the crisis accommodation that's needed and the homelessness out there, particularly in women over 50 who've gone through different circumstances, often a relationship breakup, and what we can do as a council in that space at a time not too far away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Anything further, councillors? Any other discussion or debate? Councillor Ivey, you have a right of reply if you wish to exercise that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We have CCL 23/76 before us, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/77, the draft Northwest Urban Release Area Precinct Plan. Can I have someone move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey, you should speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, commend the staff and the preparation of that report. It seems that it really is an area where planning can be done properly, and not in a reactionary way, but in a proactive way to help develop an area which would be perhaps a model for accommodation and development of housing and associated infrastructure and service centres. The idea of being able to stand back with a greenfield site and say, look, this is how we want to plan it. We want a range of high density and low density of different sorts of residential housing. We want green spaces. We want access. We want a community that really can engage and be happy with where they live. And I think that's really good. One of the things which I've raised before was just the problem perhaps down the track where we've got a number of different landowners, making sure that if one landowner has an area which predominantly or has a higher proportion of green space on it, for instance, than another area owned by another landowner, how does the equal or how does the economics between those two areas equalise? And I guess that's something which can be done from a number of different mechanisms, but it is something which I urge council to really look at and make sure that jealousy, if you like, between landowners doesn't stop the development of this model development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other questions or debate? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having a look at the updated draft layout, there does seem to be an awful lot more green recreation area on the proposed layout compared to the previous one, which is a good thing, and most importantly, linked up as well so that people can move along the green space to different to the shops and get back to their house and go to the sporting areas and down to the river. So from that point of view, that looks a fair bit better than the previous layout. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Ivey probably don't need a right of reply to what's been said there. Okay, CCL 23/77. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/78, the draft DCP for Claremont Rise. Can someone move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that, declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/79, the planning proposal R22/006, 13L Narromine Road. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/80, Macquarie Conservatorium of Music. Now, I just want to check that recommendation there because we need to have something to replace what's there, because what's there is obviously not a valid recommendation because we've got to consider. So, at the moment, the recommendation in the report that says council considers its role. So do I have a motion from anyone on the floor that replaces point 1 with some direction for staff? Is that something, sorry, CEO, you're looking like?
You could move that and then as you explore the debate, come forward with a amendment, as it were.
Yes, we could do that. So just for councillors, we've got to end up something different to that because obviously we can't have a resolution from council, a final resolution from council that says council considers its role, because that's exactly what we're doing at the moment. It's considering the role in terms of the debate. So Councillor Black, you can move what's there, and then as the CEO said, or you can have an alternative motion if you so desire. So Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, let's just move that as it stands at the moment, and we can see where we get to, and then any amendments along the way.
Thank you. So just, sorry, you're moving that. I'll just get a seconder first. So moving what's in the report at the moment, seconded by Councillor Goff. Now, Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, the conservatorium is a very important part of cultural Dubbo. We're not a cultural desert. There's 1,400 plus students who, in the region, not just Dubbo, get music lessons at the conservatorium. They put on a lot of good shows, and it's a very important aspect for attracting workers to Dubbo who look to see what's available for their children, what they can participate in, and that they can get their music lessons and develop culturally. I know that it's funded by the state government a fair bit and from paying parents for the lessons, but whatever we can do as a council to make sure that the conservatorium stays here, I think that would be money well invested into the community. And it might not actually be that we have to put in cash, sort of like an in-kind contribution. So that's my contribution for the moment, but I may have an amendment later on.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other speakers on that as it stands at the moment, councillors? Further speakers? So I do need then, if someone wants to do something to amend that, because again, we can't have that resolution of council because it just doesn't give our staff direction to actually do anything with that. So if there's no further discussion as it stands at the moment, then I really need an amendment to replace number 1. Councillor Ivey, you can either, you've got 2 choices. You can either just talk about this in general, or you can actually have an amendment if you wish.
I'm happy to propose an amendment, Mr. Mayor, that says that this council actively investigates ways in which it can help support the Macquarie Conservatorium of Music to find a short to medium term location. And then point 2 would stay the same.
So you'd be replacing number 1 essentially by what you've just said there.
But actively
investigate
consider
ways
in which it can support.
Right, in support, and then basically go from Macquarie's Conservatorium of Music to find a short to medium term location.
Yes.
Yep. And you're happy with that? You see as enough direction, or you'd like more direction than actively support?
So that would, through Mr. Mayor, so we are actively engaged as well. I guess what ideally we'd have more clarity, and you've heard from in the public speaking the chair of the board that this is somewhat critical in timing. So what I would hate us to get to is we have a solution we will have to bring back to council, because if there is a subsidised rental for below market rent is what that refers to, we have to bring that back to council for a decision. So ideally, I'd like a little bit more. It's council's choice. Selfishly, and for the team, I would prefer a bit tighter direction if councillors were so amenable.
So, yes, Councillor Ivey?
I'll just make a comment on that, or a response to that. As I understand it, the present accommodation expires at the end of June, but it's likely that it will be extended for up to on a monthly basis for perhaps even 3 months or even longer. So that presumably gives us a little bit more time I'd like to be able to investigate some of the issues raised by the CEO of the Conservatorium in relation to flexibility of using some of the council facilities, and that probably needs a little bit more negotiation, but it did seem to open the door there that council would be able to provide some accommodation with some additional concessions, perhaps. I don't know if concessions is the right word, by the con in what they do require council to provide. But that would just take a little bit of toing and froing.
Certainly. Hearing what you've got to say, Councillor Ivey, I'll accept that amendment as enough direction to then allow the CEO and his staff to go away and do further work on that. So I've got an amendment. Can I have someone second that amendment, please? Councillor Goff, thank you. Now, you've kind of done it, but would you like to speak to your amendment, Councillor Ivey?
Just very quickly, Mr. Mayor, to really echo Councillor Black's comments, I think the Conservatorium is it's a vital resource in our area. We are competing. We are a regional area, and we are competing with other regional areas. We do want to offer both residents and potential residents people moving into our area a broad life experience. We've got fantastic sporting facilities, but we've got quite a good arts movement there, and a number of very highly talented artists. the conservatorium does complement that whole cultural centre. So I think this council should be really aware of that and do what it can within limits to help foster that whole the development of the conservatorium.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other speakers on the amendment. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to echo what Councillor Ivey and Councillor Black have said. Music education, which I've said before, is pretty important. It's really good for cognitive development. Not every kid wants to go out to the sporting field and chuck a footy. Some like to go to the music room and play piano because they're fat. Anyway, so I really do urge council to help in every way possible, actually, to make sure this conservatorium continues on. There's 1,600 kids learn music. They facilitate music programs for other schools, to Wellington, to Narromine, and further and beyond. It's pretty vital for our cultural development as a city.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any other speakers? Councillor Mann.
Just to comment, Mr. Mayor, that this is a very important subject, obviously, but I think we need to keep in mind that we don't do anything to the detriment of other community groups that are already established as we're looking for these facilities. We need to probably get quite creative on how we're going to get this one done, but we've got to keep that in mind. Thank you.
And so, and just with that in mind, Councillor Mann, I'm just thinking active investigation support, and that doesn't preclude that. I mean, I was going to say you could foreshadow an amendment if you wanted to actually note that if this amendment goes through, to actually note that as a point 3. You can't do an amendment at the moment because there's an amendment we're considering, so you could foreshadow an amendment if you wish to do that, if you wanted to make that very clear that we're not going to disadvantage.
I'm sure that'll be considered.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Anything further, councillors, on the amendment before us? No, Councillor Black, as the mover of the original motion, you have right of reply to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that was a good point about the other Evo cities that Councillor Ivey made. We are competing against them. I do also note that other councils have chipped in to help get a conservatorium and really pressure the state government into providing funding. And one to note is the Orange City Council and their massive conservatorium and planetarium. I'm not sure that we need a planetarium, but any help that we could give in that space. And also Deniliquin Conservatorium of Music got $4.5 million from the state government in a grant to buy a building and fit it out. It's slightly disappointing that the same thing hasn't occurred here in the last couple of years, but that is hopefully something that we could be looking at in the future as a long-term solution to the Dubbo Conservatorium, Macquarie Conservatorium for a home, and to continue on the music lessons to kids in the future in this region. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have the amendment before us, councillors. Ms. Wade, do you want to just read the amendment that we've got to make sure we're 100% clear on that?
So the amendment we have is that this council actively investigates ways in which we can support the Macquarie Conservatorium to find short to medium term. Are we keeping point 2 that council continue development of a future for the Western Plains Cultural Centre and continue to engage with cultural stakeholders such as the Macquarie Conservatorium of Music in Progress. Sorry.
Thank you. So that's the amendment before us. So all those in favour of the amendment? Against? Declare the amendment carried. That now becomes the motion. Is there any further discussion or debate on the motion, or if there are any other amendments that you wish to make to the motion, they can be made now. Councillor Black.
I'd just like to, thank you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to move an additional amendment. It's part of the previous resolution, point 1, which says that council notes the valuable educational, cultural and economic benefits of the Dubbo region having a conservatorium. I think when we go to and the conservatorium goes to the state government and we can actively lobby, we show it's fairly uncontroversial, this point, show that yes, council does note the valuable educational, cultural and economic benefits to the region. We have actually formally resolved that and kept that in there, and that'll be extra lobbying power.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So that's an amendment. Can I have someone second the amendment, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff. Now, again, you've probably done it, but do you want to speak to that amendment, Councillor Black?
Thanks, we'll do it on one.
Right, any other discussion or debate on the amendment? That's a point 3, which basically picks up from the 28 October 2021 resolution from council. That was essentially the same as point 1 there. I think Councillor Black, wasn't it, identical to point 1 from that 28 October 2021 resolution? So any other discussion or debate on that amendment, councillors? Being none, Councillor Black, you probably don't need a right of reply to your own amendment. So I put that. All those in favour of the amendment? Against? Declare that carried. We've now got the motion, which is now the new point number 1, point number 2 as it was, and number 3 that's just been added. Any further discussion or debate on the motion or any further amendments that councillors wish to bring forward? No. Councillor Black, you probably don't need a right of reply again. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Sorry, Ms. Wade there, you've noted the one against. The councillor? Okay, so against. Right, I declare that carried. Sorry, see you? Okay, thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 23/81, Investment Policy and Strategy Review. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Perhaps just a comment, Mr. Mayor, just that the investment policy and strategy, it's something in some ways fairly boring, but I think the events of the global events of the last week, month or so has highlighted the importance of having a good investment policy and strategy that's conservatively based and largely, hopefully completely, shields us from those economic tidal waves which are affecting some of the world economies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/82, update on internal audit and risk function. Have someone move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells. Seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, Dubbo Regional Airport Airline Regular Passenger Transport Fees and Charges, CCL 23/83. Now, I also may have a separate motion being moved for this one. I think, Ms. Wade, do we end up with something for? Okay, right, yeah. So all councillors should have it there via email. If anyone wishes to move, well, you can move that recommendation there if you like, or you can move the alternative recommendation, one or the other. Just whoever wants to move something, let me know, and you can move whichever one you choose, or whatever other one you want, if you so desire. Councillor Ivey, you're looking somewhat expectant.
You'll have to help me here, Mr. Mayor. I would move an alternative.
Are you're moving the one that's been emailed, or another one again?
Sorry, no. I need to.
Yeah, man, you can move whatever. You can move whatever you like.
Sorry, can I just?
It was just for clarification.
Just for clarification. Yes, well, I am happy with that new resolution. So
okay, so if you could just read that out, please, for the benefit of people watching.
That new resolution is that the draft 2023-24 fees and charges reflect an increase of, now it says 3.7% there. I would be moving 5%.
Okay, so that's fine. We'll just very quickly do the calculation on the current fee so we can actually put the fees in there at the 5% increase for you.
Yes.
So just continue with the rest of it and we'll come back and just give you that calculation for you.
Righto, so for the 5% for the fees and passenger charges, that the Chief Executive Officer formally advise all airlines of the proposed passenger facility charge, that all other fees relating to Dubbo Regional Airport and Wellington Aerodrome and Recreation Park, including security fees, general aviation landing fees, to be considered as part of the broader annual revenue policy and fees and charges review process. Number 4, that the Chief Executive Officer the Chief Executive Officer to develop an engagement plan with stakeholders to investigate the introduction of a per tonne maximum takeoff weight charge for RPT operators at Dubbo Regional Airport as part of the 2024-25 annual review policy and fees and charges review process.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. And just to clarify that, the 5% fee would result in $18.32.
Right.
Okay, so basically, so not going with the maximum takeoff weight as per the recommendation, going with an increase of 5% to the normal and keep the fee structure the same, but just an increase of 5%, essentially, Yep, keeping the regime the same, just an increase in the fees. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, I support the idea of increasing the per passenger charge. The airport exists because of passengers. We're not a great an air freight centre. We need passengers. I think it's fair that the income that the Dubbo Regional Council receives from the airport operation be based upon the number of passengers. The argument that perhaps a maximum takeoff weight charge should be levied, which then smooths out that variation in passenger numbers because it exists or it is based upon the number of flights. Yes, it smooths out the income, but I think this council should be prepared to hang its hat upon the number of passengers coming through our airport, and therefore the income we receive should be reflected by or through the number of passengers. I note that that basis is the same for other comparable airports in New South Wales. The other regional airports do operate purely on a per passenger charge that they have either investigated or investigated it, and at this stage opted not to introduce a maximum takeoff weight landing charge. And I think really we're in a position in the industry where I don't believe Dubbo Regional Council should be leaders in making change. I think we do test the water a little bit, hence the point 4 in my motion that says that the Chief Executive Officer should develop an engagement plan. I think we should have discussions with the users of the airport, with the Rexes and the Qantas Links, to gauge their reaction to a change, and in some ways let them convince us that the change shouldn't be made. If we do believe that maximum takeoff weight landing should be maximum takeoff charge should be introduced, then let the airlines convince us that that's not the way to go. So I think this is a good compromise between increasing our revenue and maintaining the fair basis for levying that income. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other speakers or questions, councillors? No, you've convinced them all, Councillor Ivey. So I put that, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 23/84, easements and deed of agreement to grant easements. The Ungla Wind Farm. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Mann, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 23/85, execution of documents related to 8A and 10 Montefiore Street. Did I get that right, councillors from Wellington? Montefiores? Yeah. Montefiores. Thank you. So can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Goff?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 23/86, the Budangra Wind Farm Community Benefit Fund for 22-23. Can I have someone move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I am the council representative on the that Community Benefit Fund Committee, and we met earlier this month to consider the applications being made under the provisions of the funding. Really, they were a good range of projects. There was not one that the committee decided wasn't worthy of support. The one comment perhaps was, well, the one issue arising is really we probably need to move away from some of the conditions in the grant funding. There's a maximum of $10,000. The number of small projects where soccer clubs get new soccer shirts and the cricket club gets new cricket nets is probably being exhausted. And there's a feeling amongst the committee that perhaps we should just look at a bigger picture. And so this issue was raised with the general manager for Iberdrola, who are providing the funds for the community fund, and it will probably be an issue that will come back to council, I think, just to be considered whether or not that $10,000 limit for any one project could be raised. There's a thought too that down the track a little bit, when there are other developments having been built and therefore other community funds coming in there, that perhaps there needs to be a more coordinated approach, and really some of the bigger picture items might be funded even over a number of years rather than just a one-off project. Maybe there could be a commitment to fund a certain amount per year for a number of years. But again, this is just some issues which were raised during the discussion, and they will come back to council. But I would certainly commend the allocation and the approval of the funds which have been with the applications. They're a good range of community projects, and this council should support them. Thank you.
Councillor Ivey, I do admit that it does seem disappointing that we can only give away $61,000 of the $85,000 allocated. So maybe the idea of increasing that grant funding, which again, as a review as part of that recommendation, then that can happen and look at that, or advertise more widely around the Wellington community to make sure that people are aware of it. Further, Councillor Ivey.
I'll just make one other comment. Yes, Mr Mayor, on that, the example was given, for instance, that at the Reigate Sports Complex there, which is very good, we've got netball courts and cricket and rugby and junior and senior rugby. There's a desperate need for a scoreboard, an electronic scoreboard, probably about $80,000. Some of the clubs have got some money, but, again, if a single project, if they could have got perhaps $20,000 towards that, the scoreboard could be put in. But as it is now, that's just not possible. So that's just an example of where a bigger allocation, and perhaps combining different applicants too. You could have actually the cricket and the rugby clubs combining as an application for funding to provide a scoreboard for a community facility.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Seeing none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Item CCL 23/87, the Macquarie River Master Plan, North and South Precincts Community Consultation. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just start with I've got a couple of questions through you about the police horse paddock clubhouse. Could I just get a bit of an indication on who's going to actually use that? They've got those playing fields indicated there at the clubhouse, and I note that it has been moved back down to the middle of the playing fields, but I was just wondering, are they going to be touch football fields, and what will the clubhouse actually be used for?
Certainly, Councillor Black, through you, Mr CEO, to Mr McAllister. Thank you, Mr McAllister.
Through you, Mr Mayor. This is, like most master plans, sort of an aspirational plan where you want to try and ensure that there is scope to undertake works in the future. At the moment, there is then the closest amenities to that those fields are the netball clubhouse. So that clubhouse would include amenities. It'd probably include a small area for a club to utilise. It's not really designed as something, say, as what we have over here at Victoria Park Number 1. Whether it's touch, whether it's football, whether it's soccer, it's really basically identifying as an active recreational area rather than just sports fields.
Thank you, Mr McAllister. Further questions from that, Councillor Black?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I was also looking at the road around at the police horse paddocks, around the touch footy fields, sporting fields, whatever we want to call it. That would be a sealed road, I take it. And also, would there be chains or poles along there to prevent cars from parking under the trees along the fields? Is that sort of the idea?
Thank you, Councillor Black. To CEO, to Mr McAllister.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The road would be sealed so that it could be used for vehicles, for cleaning, for servicing of the area, for bins and the like. We also don't want to basically create an area which traffic then becomes bogged and tracking mud everywhere. So that section would be sealed. The area to the west of the proposed fields, including where the River Red Gums are, from that point there, the road would then become unsealed, and there would be some form of barrier, maybe bollard and chain or something along those lines, to discourage people going into that area and driving around or whatever else.
Just further that, Councillor Black, I just want to clarify for my own reference, Mr McAllister, looking at the plan there, if I just use the numbering on there, I'm not sure if you've got it there in front of you, but number 7, I assume along the area that goes from north to south would be the bitumen sealed area that you're talking about, but the area up around, say, 6 and 9 and 10, I assume that's the area up there that you're talking about not being bitumen sealed up through that area there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Yep, right, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Black. Further on that?
The Eco Hub, just a couple of questions, I'll roll them together. There's a road, like an internal road around the Eco Hub, I'll just refer back to my diagram here. The road around the outside of the Eco Hub, that looks like it's going to be sealed as well. Has any consideration been given to having that as an unsealed, like granite road? And also, what provisions are being made to make that, ensure that that's a multi-user facility for all of the different organisations that were mentioned in the report, and it's not just like exclusive use by one group? Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Black. I'm just going to ask Mr. CEO, or maybe to Mr. McAllister, is that level of detail too detailed at the moment from a master plan perspective, in terms of, do we really know what the road surface might be? Again, indicative in here, but obviously not prescriptive, I would assume. So happy for you to answer that, or Mr. McAllister to answer that. But what Councillor Black's asking is a valid question, but I'm not sure if we're at that level of detail yet.
It's indicative in a master plan, so I guess you've allocated the space for that, for whether it's bikes, people, transport. What that shows is there is some sealed car parks, but typically what you do with a master plan, when you get funding, what have you, you drop it at the next level of detail. It's like what we've done at Elizabeth Park. If you looked at the original master plan for Elizabeth Park, where the Japanese garden is, it's whilst some of the themes are very similar and consistent with the previous master plan, the actual fine-grained detail, what we're building, is quite different. So to that point, the other point Councillor Black made in terms of users, that would be decisions through licence agreement, which one will have you, and depending on the time, that typically comes for council for decision. So I know part of that area is currently under licence to Lead a Life for some programs they've got going. Where we have community gardens just nearby, there's 2 licence agreements there. So that would go through that licence agreement process that does go through council and does get publicly exhibited typically.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. So anything further, Mr. McAllister, you'd like to add from those points?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Eco Hub is basically more of a concept, and it doesn't align to any one group or anything like that at this point in time. So it's really they're identifying as an area where we can establish good environmental management principles.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Councillor. Councillor Black, any further questions?
Move on to my comment.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The whole River Master Plan, Regal Park and other areas is an incredible effort by the community, really. There's a whole stack of people put effort into this that may not be traditionally seen as allies to ensure that there's a fairly good outcome for the community. Nothing's perfect, but it's maybe as good as we can get it, I would assume. The next thing is going to be to get the funding, and we really are going to have to tap state and federal governments for funding as much as we can and find funding within the council budget to ensure that this becomes a reality. And it's something that can really be a legacy for future generations in Dubbo to preserve area along the river and turn it into an amazing public recreation area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. And certainly funding for the numbers we're talking about there, in my experience with master plans, I think that would probably be 20 years or thereabouts before you realise this, just based on those numbers. And again, you chip away at that master plan, but at least you've got the master plan to work towards. Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillors, any other questions or comments? Councillor Mann.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. I endorse Councillor Black's glowing tribute to the community on how they've worked together on this, etc. And our staff acknowledge the amount of work that's gone through that. But also, I think it was a really clever thing to pull the Northwest Precinct out of this stage, given our previous conversation around that planning. It's totally new way of thinking for that area. So to leave it out of this plan, I think was a good move. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Mann. Other questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Black, you have a right of reply to what Councillor Mann said, if you wish. Yeah, thank you, councillors. I have that before us. CCL 23/87. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 23/88 for comments and any matters of urgency. I'll start on the right. I'll go Councillor Chowdhury first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just highlighted a few community events happened on last weekend. One is Titan Macquarie Mud Run and Oriscon Gala Dinner. Both events had a great success, and I've seen a lot of participation from the community. I'd like to thank you to the committee and the community to participate in those events. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Goff.
I thought we were going that way.
Sorry, my right, Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the last month, I got invited, I think all the female councillors got invited, but I went and had lunch with the View ladies. That was nice. I had no idea what View was about until I went and had lunch with them. And what View stands for is a voice, interest and education for women. And View has been around for 100 years. So someone 100 years ago thought that the View, interest and education for women was important. So meeting these 20, there were 20 ladies there. The lady to my left was 92 and still selling raffle tickets. And it just got me thinking again how community involvement is so important. These ladies raise money to put a number of students through education, and one's actually now going off to uni. So I would like to highly encourage people to get involved. Have a look into View. It's not all about selling scones and cakes. They probably could do with some new blood and some new ideas, but they're a very enthusiastic bunch of ladies. I'd also like to mention last Sunday, I'm a member of the Wellington Domestic Violence Family Collective, and we had a white ribbon Ambrose golf event, which created awareness for domestic violence in our community, where Dubbo currently sits 5th of incidents in the state, which is too high. It's quite horrible. And that's only what's reported. So as a community, breaking down the stereotypes around DV is really important. And I hope that out of that event, if one gentleman leaves and stops a derogatory gender bias comment or wrong stereotype around DV, we've done our job. So I just want to congratulate the collective and all the services that were involved with that golf day. It came off really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. On Sunday, I had the opportunity to participate culturally at the Studio 138 Voices for Women, and that is a Dubbo initiative where Dubbo Regional Council supports them, but it's a very small centre that supports people to create, perform, and exhibit, and they do poetry, music, and just a beautiful centre there, and that I think should continue through, similar to some of the other things that have happened around the community. So that was great. I had that opportunity, and on Saturday, I too, like Councillor Chowdhury, wanted to give Dubbo a shout out, or the Macquarie Titan Mud Run. I'm going to say I was foolish, not brave, to participate in the mud run, and it's not necessarily built for a person of my age and my ability, but I have to say it was a great event. Hundreds participated in it. There were young kids, probably 4-year-olds, flying past people like myself with no shoes on. I wondered whether they had any run over any cat heads or things like that. So it just gives me, like, it really impresses me that this community can put on really great events like that people across the community come to Dubbo to participate at. I remember when we were starting off on the day, there were people in the same area as us to be released, whatever you want to call it, and they came from Sydney, and I thought that's pretty cool. So just bravo to Dubbo in all of the things that we do that bring people here. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just backing on from Councillor Wells' comments, the committee that put that the mud run on have done a fantastic job in their fundraising and being able to fund upgrades along the river corridor to make people's recreational experience even better. On the 12th of March, I had the opportunity with Councillor Etheridge and Councillor Wells to attend a public meeting about the proposed site for the rehab centre, drug and alcohol and other drug rehab centre in West Dubbo. Speaking with many of the property owners over there before and after the meeting, they weren't very happy with the location near their houses, and it's not just that people don't want it in their backyard, it's not NIMBY, it's also they want the outcomes to be better for the people, and they believe that that'll be better outcomes for the people with more privacy in a suitable rural location. So that's something to note. And the next thing, once we get all this River Master Plan stuff sorted in the Northwest Precinct, I think it would be good, as mentioned before, to really look at what this council can do around homelessness and crisis accommodation. And like I said, talking to people in the community, there's so many, especially mature age ladies, who are basically homeless and having to live at friends' places, and you even see some people living in their cars. But that's something, after talking to councillors in other parts of the state, that this council could really look at what we can do to make a difference in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Mann.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just on early this week, we had the opportunity to go down to Badangra at Wellington and check out the AMSL aero testing team with their the drone development that they're doing down there, and it's great to see something like that, which will no doubt probably become much bigger and louder as it goes on, being developed and tested in our own facilities, in our own backyard. Mr. Mayor, I know you were there, and Councillor Ivey was there, and it was it's something to behold what they're doing. This whole drone technology, it's just going forward in leaps and bounds. So that was a good experience to see them guys. And just a plug for an event that is dear to my heart. The South Dubbo Rotary Club has their black tie ball on out at the Royal Flying Doctor experience on Saturday night. We've got 410 people coming along. We've got a 10-piece band up from Sydney. It's been a great fundraiser over the years. COVID's interrupted the last few iterations, but it's probably 4 years since our last one. But that's enabled us to donate large amounts of money to the local RFDS support group. And so anybody that's going along, I hope you have a great night. And there's actually a car going to be drawn on the night of raffles. So that's another good fundraiser for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of issues. One, just going on from Councillor Chowdhury's, I attended the Orascon Gala night on Saturday night. And it was mind blowing as far as I was concerned. I must admit, I didn't know what Orascon meant or what it stood for or what it was. It's the Arana residents of the Indian subcontinent. So those countries that fall within the Indian subcontinent. Although I did notice a couple of Fijians there, and I said to Councillor Chowdhury, "Oh, yes, we include Fiji too." So I'm not quite sure how Fiji goes into the Indian subcontinent, but that inclusivity was just so important, and it was so evident, and it was just fantastic to see over 400 people there who really in their home countries mightn't have been really interacting very well, but just interacting so positively, and it was really very good. And I love the opening remarks of the chairman of the night, who said, "Thank you very much for coming. First and foremost, everyone here is Australian. We are all Australians first and foremost, but we come from different countries and we want to preserve our culture and our cuisine and our customs, and we want to be able to pass them on to our children. And by doing that, we are actually enhancing the Australian society." And I thought that was fantastic. So heads up for that. The other issue which I'd just like to address is what's happened in Wellington recently. As we know that there's the renewables going on there. We've got Lightsource BP about to build another a big solar farm, 1.5 times, twice as big as the existing one, on the old soil conservation station land and another adjoining property. They've bought both those properties. As part of the, as we are aware, the solar farms don't have to make a compulsory contribution to the community benefit fund. We've had meetings with Lightsource BP, and they've said yes, they will make a voluntary contribution. Perhaps along the lines of establishing a research facility there for enhancing the agricultural use of solar land, solar farms. Up until very recently, a few weeks ago, there was a nucleus of research people there at the old soil con station. They'd been there for, the facility had serviced the area for about the last 30 or 40 years. There was a hub there of about 6 people. Lightsource BP had a change in management, a bit of a change of direction, and said, "Thanks very much. We want to use this facility for some other purposes. You people will have to relocate." And I thought that actually dented my confidence a little bit, because there was an ideal opportunity for Lightsource BP to say, "Look, we want to develop this research facility. We're not quite sure how or where or what, but in the meantime, let's start with what we've got, which is the soil conservation services, which is now part of LLS, the centre there, and maybe we can leverage off that or something." But no, they were relocated. Now, the head, Alan Nicholson, who's the state water coordinator, had a bit of pressure on him to be moved to Parramatta, and he said, "No, thanks very much, I don't want to do that." And so he has actually relocated to Dubbo. He wants to investigate if there's a way that perhaps a service centre can be left in Wellington. And I just think that from this council's perspective, it's very important to realise what is happening in that renewable space and what we as a council have to do for the betterment of our whole region. It's not just what might benefit Wellington. It's saying if what's good for Wellington is good for the Dubbo region, what's good for the Dubbo region benefits the whole region, or what's good for Dubbo City benefits the whole region. And I think we as councillors really need to take that on board. I'm incredibly optimistic about the future for this area, not just for Wellington or for Dubbo, but for the Dubbo Regional Council area. And I think we really have to start to say, look, what can we do as council to sort of push some of these developments that are going, that are proposed to make sure they benefit the whole region. And by benefiting a particular part of the region, they will benefit the whole region. I'd just like to pick up on perhaps the last council meeting you had where there was a defeated motion that some of the money allocated to Wellington Road should be moved back to Dubbo roads. And I think that's a great pity. Let's start to look at this whole region as one region. What's good for one part of the region is good for the whole region. And I think we just need to always have that in mind, that some particular development, some particular benefit there will have flow-on effects to the whole region. I think it's just very important that we always have that in the back of our minds. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Burns.
Nothing to say, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Etheridge.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Just a couple of things. I just want to note that two of my favourite things are on at the Western Plains Cultural Centre at the moment, Art Express and Waste to Art, both worthwhile exhibitions to go along and look at, and great to see so many people in Dubbo. I think 38 Art Express items are there at the moment, so that's fantastic to see one of those from Dubbo, but also the Waste to Art are all from the Dubbo Regional Council area. Black Dog Ride on the weekend, a weekend that had a record number, 350 participants riding motorbikes in support of Black Dog. So that was a fantastic event. And Holy Miller, along the same lines as Councillor Ivey and Councillor Chowdhury, I was down at Holy Miller earlier on in the month with the Festival of Colours down at Ollie Robbins Oval. And interesting to note that I got a message from Dr. Joe Canlisi, who's over in Nepal doing some charity work over there, but he was engaged with the Holy Miller Festival in Nepal at the same time as we were doing one here in Dubbo. And the last couple of ones, Governor General, had a discussion with him in the last week about bushfires. Very caring man, was interested to see what was happening around bushfires and how much it impacted our community. And a big thank you to Councillor Burns, who took us out to Chinchilla during last week and showed us around there, but also had an attempt at teaching a few of us to play the didgeridoo, which was an interesting experience, I think, probably from our perspective, very interesting. So thank you. So lots of good things happening around the community. Next item, confidential items under Section 10A of the Local Government Act. The next item, CCL 23/89, has been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I have someone move us into confidential session to deal with the confidential items? Thank you, Councillor Wells. Seconded by Councillor Black. We have had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. Do any members of the public in the public gallery have any comments to make regarding the proposal to hear the items in a closed session of council? Section 10A4 of the Act, arguments for or against confidentiality. Anyone want to come forward and argue for or against that? Okay, councillors, any questions or debate in relation to moving into confidential? Being none, all those in favour? Against? Declare it carried. We'll now move into closed session at 7:12 p.m. The streaming will now be turned off. Members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on this matter, with the resolutions to be made public. Thank you. streaming again if you want me to. Rightio. I'll just wait for Susan to open the door. If there's anyone downstairs who would love to come back up.
Does too. Is it? Okay.
2 seconds. Okay, I think we can satisfy that. Is someone coming up? Okay, so I think we're satisfied no one's coming up. Council return to open session at 7:21 p.m. Welcome back. I now ask, normally I'd ask Ms. Wade to read that, but she's not here, so that's fine, I'll do that. Okay, sorry, I'll ask the governance team leader to read the resolutions from the confidential session.
Those stairs. CCL 2389, proposed acquisition of land for the Dubbo Northern Borefield project. Recommendation, Council resolved, 1, that Council commence the process of acquiring the relevant land as specified in this report, A, pursuant to section 1861 of the Local Government Act 1993, and B, in accordance with the Land Acquisition Just Terms Compensation Act 1991. 2, that Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to register an acquisition plan with the New South Wales Land Registry Service outlining the proposed acquisition area as specified in this report. 3, that any documents relating to this matter be signed under the common seal of Council. And 4, that all matters contained within this report remain confidential to Council.
Thank you, Ms. Wade. No further items for consideration at the ordinary council meeting. I declare the meeting closed at 7:23 p.m. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance.